Welcome. Let's cut right to the chase. The question isn't if the skies over Ukraine will change. The question is how. And the answer might be a deal inked in the dead of summer, a hypothetical, game-changing agreement in July of 2025. This is the video everyone's been waiting for. We're not talking about old news. We're talking about the future. We're talking about Ukraine's 2026 gamble. And the centerpiece of that gamble? A lethal new toy. The Saab Gripen E fighter. Can this Swedish-built blade truly crush Russia's air force? Will these Saabs, in the hands of desperate and skilled Ukrainian pilots, finally tip the scales? To me, this is the boldest move imaginable. This isn't just about getting more jets. It's about getting a different kind of jet, a high-tech predator that could be an absolute game-changer. In this video, we are going to unpack every piece of this. We're tearing down the tech, stacking it up piece by piece against Russia's top fighters, and analyzing exactly how this new killer teams up with Ukraine's incoming F-16s. And you'll want to stay for the end, because we are finalizing this with some brutal hypothetical engagements, BVR and within visual range. Let's dive in. If you guys are just getting here, my name's Conley, also known as NavyCast. I'm a former F-15E Strike Eagle combat fighter pilot and a former F-16 Thunderbird pilot. On this channel, I bring you the latest and greatest breaking news and analysis in the defense sector, with, as you've probably noticed, a little bit of a twist towards aviation. And folks, this is the twist of the decade. The Swedish scalpel. Why the Gripen is a game-changer, the Saab Gripen E. Since that hypothetical July 2025 deal was made, this jet is the new monster in the room. This isn't just another fourth-gen fighter. This is a true multi-role fighter, and let me tell you, it does it all. Air to air, air to ground. But one of the biggest, most overlooked things about this jet? It is a phenomenal ISR platform. For all you acronym-hungry viewers out there, that's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. This thing can spot targets from miles and miles away, passively, without ever giving away its own position. This right here, this ISR capability, is probably one of the single biggest advantages it has over the legacy F-16 Vipers that Ukraine is getting. Why? Because it's more modern. It's just flat out more modernized. Think about it this way. Think about buying a house built in 1950. Yeah, it's got good bones, but there are going to be issues. The wiring is old, the plumbing is sketchy, and it's a nightmare to upgrade. That's the F-16, a legendary jet from the 70s. Now think about buying a house built in 2025. It's got smart home tech, fiber optics, and an open concept floor plan. That's this Saab Gripen. It was born in the digital age. Let's look under the hood. It's powered by a single General Electric F414 engine. That's the exact same combat-proven engine used in the F-18 Super Hornet. It's reliable, it's powerful, and it can push this lightweight airframe to Mach 2. But here's the kicker. Here's the plot twist you've been waiting for. It super cruises. Now, for the non-aviators in the room, let me break that down. That means this jet, with a full combat load, can blast right through the sound barrier, Mach 1 and beyond, without dumping oceans of fuel into its afterburner. The burner, as we call it, is a massive fuel hog. It's like hitting the nitrous in Fast and Furious. You get a massive burst of speed, but you'll be empty in minutes. Supercruise changes the entire tactical equation. It means a Gripen can go really, really fast without burning a ton of fuel. It can intercept Russian bombers, get into a launch position, and get out of the fight before a Russian Su-35 on full afterburner even has time to react. all while the Russian pilot is watching his fuel gauge plummet to zero. This isn't just about going fast. It's about persistence. It's about getting to the fight first, launching your weapons, and getting out of dodge before the enemy even knows you're there. This is a capability that, until now, has been reserved for apex predators like the F-22 Raptor. And now, it's on an $80 million budget fighter. But the engine is just the start. The real magic is in the sensors. The Gripen EF is rocking an AESA radar, an active electronically scanned array. This is the new standard, and it's likely the legacy F-16s that are in Ukraine right now don't have this. AESA isn't just a radar. It's a multifunction digital weapon. An old, mechanically scanned radar is like a flashlight in a dark room. It can only point at one thing at a time. An AESA is like a bank of 1,000 tiny flashlights that can all point in different directions at once. This radar can track multiple targets, planes, missiles, even stealthy threats, while simultaneously jamming enemy sensors at the same time. Let me say that again. It can track, target, and jam, all at once. To me, that's the win-win. That's the double punch that everybody wants. And if the enemy tries to jam your AESA radar, good luck. It's like trying to jam 100 different radio stations all broadcasting at the same time. It's a digital firewall. But what if the Russians get smart and turn off their radars to go silent? That's where the Gripen's other secret weapon comes in. The IRST, or Infrared Search and Track. This is a passive sensor, a high-tech thermal camera that can spot the heat signatures from enemy jet engines from miles and miles out. It emits nothing. It's completely silent. A Gripen pilot can have his radar off, totally silent, and still see an entire Russian formation by the heat they're kicking out. For Ukraine, though, the Gripen is a logistical win above everything else. This is the part that civilian analysts always miss. A fighter jet is useless if it's sitting in a hangar waiting for repairs. The Gripen was designed by Sweden to fight a war against Russia, outnumbered, and without massive, sprawling air bases. This jet operates off of highways. Let that sink in. It can land on a simple strip of road, pull over, and be rearmed, refueled, and back in the air with just a 6-man ground crew. A little similar to their F-16s, sure, but this is even better because it's more modernized. You don't need a massive, pristine air base, and that is the absolute key for Ukraine. They can't have these things sitting on the ramp, taking off and landing at the same base all the time, because they become predictable. They become targets for Russian drones and missiles. The Gripen gives them flexibility. It enables a guerrilla air war. And then there's the price tag. At $80 million per jet, that's roughly half the cost of a single F-35. So to me, this isn't just a jet. This is a budget-friendly powerhouse. Budget-friendly at a cool $80 million, no big deal, right? But when you're fighting a war of attrition, when resources are stretched thin, when manpower is stretched thin, you must have economy of force. That is a huge, fundamental tenet of air power, and that's what Ukraine is getting in this deal. This might be the best part of the whole deal. The Rogues Gallery. Gripen versus Russia's best. Okay, so we've established the Gripen is a high-tech, low-cost beast. But how does it actually stack up against Russia's top 4 fighter jets? Let's pit the Gripen against the Su-35, the Su-57, the MiG-35, and the Su-30SM. This is where Ukraine's 2025 gamble could pay off in blood. First, the workhorse of the Russian Air Force, the Su-35 Flanker E. This is the most advanced of the flanker family. It's big, it's powerful, and it has thrust vectoring engines that give it some wild, physics-defying maneuvers. You've all seen it at air shows. It can do the Cobra maneuver, basically stopping in mid-air. It's a solid jet. Getting into a close-in dogfight with an Su-35? Probably not the best idea. But here's the thing. Modern air combat isn't about dogfights. It's about killing the enemy before he ever sees you. It's BVR, beyond visual range. And smacking this thing beyond visual range is exactly what the Gripen is going to be doing all day long. Why? Because when you get new jets, you get new tech. And the new tech that comes with the Gripen is a missile called the Meteor. To me, this missile is the newest, most lethal tech that Ukraine desperately needs. The Meteor is a BVR weapon that can fire at targets roughly 100 nautical miles away, maybe even more. But it's not the range that makes it so deadly. It's the motor. Unlike a traditional missile that burns all its fuel in the first few seconds and then glides, the Meteor has a ramjet engine. It breathes air. This means it can keep accelerating, keep maneuvering, all the way to the target. It has a no-escape zone that is absolutely massive. You combine the AESA radar in the Gripen with the Meteor missile, and you give this thing what we in the business call the long stick. And that's just fun to say. The Su-35's radar is relatively solid, but I wouldn't say it's at the AESA level that the Gripen is rocking. In a BVR fight, the Gripen pilot launches his Meteor from 100 miles out, guided by his superior radar, and then turns and runs while the Russian pilot is still trying to get a lock. It's not a fair fight. And if it gets into a dogfight? The Su-35's raw power is tough, but the Gripen's small size makes it incredibly nimble and agile. For me, when it came to dogfights, having an agile jet was the name of the game. The Gripen has a fly-by-wire system that is basically a fancy way of saying, this thing is hyper-responsive. And you want a responsive jet, not just in a dogfight, but also in BVR, because there's going to be a ton of maneuvering happening way outside of a dogfight bubble, to make sure you don't get swacked by Russia's missiles after you fire your own. Next, the Su-57. Felon. This is Russia's stealthy jet. I would say it's a 4++ generation jet. It's very sneaky from the front. But here's its dirty secret. Those engines. The engines on the Su-57 aren't incredibly advanced when it comes to stealth tech. That means from the rearward quadrant that Su-57 is going to stand out like a, well, you know what? In sweatpants. And you're going to see that thing from miles away with the Gripen's IRST. The Su-57 pilot thinks he's invisible, but the Gripen pilot is just watching this massive heat signature cruise across his screen. Then you factor in the Gripen's electronic warfare suite, which would disrupt the Su-57's sensors. And let's be honest, Russia has a very limited Su-57 fleet. They don't have very many of these things. I would guess probably a dozen, maybe less. And when it comes to flyable Su-57s, I'd say somewhere around 6. The other 6 are what we call hangar queens, jets you just pull parts off of. So, you've got 6 operational ones, not exactly a war-winning fleet. Let's move to the MiG-35. This is basically a modernized MiG-29. It's a sharp-looking jet, but it's still a MiG-29 under the skin. It's going to have older avionics. Russia may or may not be putting these on the front lines, but in my opinion, it's just going to be completely outclassed by the Gripen's tech. The tech inside that thing, to me, is just going to be a little bit sluggish. Finally, the Su-30SM. This mirrors the Su-35 in looks, but it's a downgrade. It's powerful, but it's got weak sensors, and it doesn't network incredibly well. And that right there, networking, is where this jet is going to give Ukraine the ultimate edge. Everybody says networking is the key, and that is the absolute truth when it comes to fighter jets. Being able to see what your wingman sees, being able to see what the AWACS sees. That's technology like Link 16 and the European version of that, which intertwines with NATO aircraft. That kind of technology just gives you an edge. You can see all the bad guys out there, not just from your own AESA radar, but also from your wingmen, from MQ-9 Reapers, from Global Hawks, from different assets up there pumping you data, basically just feeding you all the dirty gossip of what Russia's launching into the fight. So in my opinion, the Gripen could outsmart and outshoot Russia's best jets because of that data-linked teamwork. You could literally fire a missile based off of your wingman's radar contact, because you're data-linked in. That is something Russia just can't get to that level quite yet. Ukraine's 2026 playbook, the killer combo. So let's talk about Ukraine's playbook for 2026. What are they actually going to do with the Gripen? This jet is built for flexibility. Let's imagine a CAP, a combat air patrol, over the Donbas. You'd have Gripen armed with their Meteor missiles. You could even adapt them to carry AMRAAMs. The F-16s that would be part of this mixed formation, this blue force, would also be carrying AMRAAMs. But now, because of networking, you can link all of those together. So now you've got advanced medium-range missiles, and you've got the longer-range Meteors with those long legs, and you link all of it together with an AWACS, an airborne warning and control system that can scan 200 miles plus with its massive AESA radar. Hey, it's not the size that matters, except when it comes to the AWACS, my friend. Now, Russia's Su-35s would obviously counter this. Like they say, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. The enemy has a vote. But the Gripen pilot, using that connectivity, using that Link 16, would likely be able to fire his Meteors before the flanker pilot could even get a lock. What about ground strikes? Picture Russian tanks advancing towards Kyiv. Now, likely there aren't going to be many of those because of the drones, but let's say a few slip through. The Gripen could be loaded with Brimstone missiles. These are precision weapons that can shred armor from about 40 nautical miles away. When it comes to standoff, that's the name of the game. You don't want to get in tight. You don't want to get in close because Russia could be protecting those tanks with mobile SAMs. So, firing from 40 nautical miles away? Boom. You just plank off those weapons. They have standoff distance, they go out. They swack the target. And now you turn. You turn, and you build a picture. You get those weapons off your jet, they're flying towards the armor, and now you turn around and you ask the AWACS for bogey dope. Bogey dope means, hey, give me the location of the nearest threat that's trying to kill me or my wingman. Stop doing everything you're doing right now. Put down your coffee and your biscotti. Even though flying with a coffee and biscotti is something I always wanted to do. Those operators in the back of the AWACS are going to be pumping that data to the Gripen pilot. And it's going to sound something like, Gripen 1 bogey dope. You're 6 o'clock, 60 nautical miles, hostile. And then they might add a direction, flanking northeast. And they'd throw on an Angels 38. So, 38,000 feet. That's where you're going to turn and target your formation. And that kind of information, again, is teamed up with Link 16. That AWACS is pumping that data right to your cockpit display. You'll see a Dorito, that's what we'd call the little triangle shape, over the hostile target that's behind you, trying to kill you. So your 6 o'clock is going to have that Dorito, but you're going to know it's there. And that is key, because then you can turn members of your formation and target that Dorito behind you without you even having to turn around. Again, SA, situational awareness, is the name of the game. And once you have that information, now it's time to be an athlete. At the end of the day, fighter pilot operations really just call for being an athlete. If they took all the books, all the tech orders, all the tactics, and summarized them, it would basically say, be an athlete. And then there's the recon mission. The Gripen's electro-optical pods can capture high-resolution imagery of Russian positions, and they can feed that intel in real time to Ukrainian ground forces. And the best part? The Gripen could launch from those rural roads, refuel, rearm, and return in under an hour, continuously collecting information and also targeting in real time. Let's say they pass information on a Russian target. At that point, the commander on the ground can basically just turn and say, "Yeah, we see that target. Thanks for pumping us that information. Now, swack it. Now drop a weapon on it." That is next-level tech. And that's a huge edge for Ukraine, because they are in a guerrilla air war. They're going up against Russia's bulky, centralized air bases that are launching potentially dozens of jets an hour. Ukraine has to be nimble. They have to think like a guerrilla operator. But they're not just getting Gripen. They're getting F-16s. So let's talk about the teamwork. Let's talk about the Gripen teaming up with the F-16s. To me, this is the killer combo. The F-16 is a proven legendary multi-role fighter. It is incredibly strong in dogfights, pretty much the best in dogfights. Once you have a position of advantage in a dogfight with an F-16, if you are aggressive, and you are assertive, and you've flown the jet quite a bit, you have to be aggressive. And you can get the kill in pretty much any dogfight against most fourth-gen jets. And for ground strikes, the F-16 is just so user-friendly. It allows you to target and use shooter-eye tactics, where your wingman can be using their targeting pod to find whatever is out there, and then pump that data back to you and basically lays in a bomb that you are dropping. To me, that's next level, especially for a single-pilot cockpit. You have to develop tactics like this. So in joint operations, here's the playbook. Gripen lead the charge. They'd be at the front, sniffing with their superior AESA radars and their data links. They would share that real-time targeting data with the F-16s, who might not have the power of that AESA radar. Against Russian jets, the Gripen would engage long-range with their Meteors. That would be the name of the game. They are the snipers. They would save the F-16s for the ground strikes, or even for the within visual range, WVR situations. Obviously, you want to avoid that. But the F-16 is loaded to the teeth with sidewinders, with AIM-9Xs. They can do the dirty work when you get in close. For the ground attacks, the Gripen use their IRST to spot SAM sites. That would be one of their main go-tos, be the king predator of the sky when it comes to targeting SAMs. And that is definitely what you'd want to do before having any F-16s or any other assets get into the area. Get the Gripen up there, have them detect what's going on, and then send in the F-16s. The Gripen are basically the bouncer, clearing the way for the F-16s. And the F-16s are loaded down with JDAMs, Joint Direct Attack Munitions. And the data link ties all of them together. It's like a networked hive mind. I mean, this is the best possible solution of a networked hive mind before you get into CCAs, Combat Collaborative Aircraft. That's not part of this air power game in Ukraine yet. But with the Gripen, with its advanced avionics, there is a chance. There is the chance that this thing could control something like the XQ-58 Valkyrie or the Fury from Hondural. Teaming up with a swarm of Furies would give the Gripen the ability to take this to the next level. And to me, the F-16 is just not going to get that done due to the old avionics in those legacy jets that Ukraine has. But now, they're getting something that's more updated, that has the ability to what we call Gucci. Gucci is a fighter pilot term for just something that's new. The technology is new, and it really gives you the edge and the advantage when it comes to BVR fighting. These jets alone, yeah, it's not going to be a walk in the park. But teaming them together? To me, it maximizes both of these jets' strengths. And that is really something that I think is going to force Russia to be on their heels when it comes to this air war moving forward. Hypothetical engagements. Painting the picture. All right, let's talk about some hypothetical engagements. Let's visualize how these Gripen and F-16s could team up. Scenario 1. The Donbas air intercept. Picture this. It's spring 2026. Ukraine's new Gripen are airborne. They are on a cap over the Donbas. Two Gripen, call sign Gripen 1 and Gripen 2, are patrolling at 30,000 feet. Or their call sign could be something even more badass like Slayer 1 and Slayer 2, but we'll stick with Gripen. They're linked to a NATO AWACS orbiting over Poland. Suddenly, their AESA radars pick up 4 contacts 150 miles out. The AWACS confirms it. 4 Su-35 flankers, heading fast towards Ukrainian positions, probably to strike pre-planned targets. The fight is on. Gripen 1, the flight lead, confirms the track. He's not even in range of the Su-35's radar. He's a ghost. At 100 nautical miles, he calmly selects his weapons. Gripen 1 Fox 3 two-ship 100 miles. He launches 2 Meteor missiles. Those missiles streak out, powered by their ramjets, accelerating. The Su-35s have no idea. They're blind. By the time their primitive radar warning receivers scream, it's too late. The Meteors adjust, guided by the data link from Gripen 1. One Su-35 is obliterated, just gone. We actually saw one go down from a Viper, so this Meteor missile is going to be even more capable than that AMR-AM. I have no doubts with 2 Meteors fired at an Su-35. At least one of them is going down. The other one, his wingman, panics. He breaks off and turns away, diving for the ground, out of the fight. But there are still 2 Su-35s closing in. They're angry. They light their afterburners. Now, Viper 2, an F-16 in the same package, gets the data. But the Gripen's IRST sees their heat signature. The Gripen pilot data links the target track to the Vipers. Both of the Vipers fire their AMRAAMs in a coordinated shot. The F-16s launch, and the Gripen guides those missiles. The Su-35s don't know what to do. They are being targeted from multiple directions by missiles they can't see. They turn to shredded metal and fall to the earth. They are completely outmaneuvered by the F-16 and Gripen combination. The network tactics, they just can't evade. They don't know where the weapon is going to come from. That telephone pole-sized missile headed their way. It could come from the Gripen. It could come from the Viper. You've got Russia on its heels. And the Gripen? They return to a highway strip. They have better slow-speed maneuverability. They've got those canards in the front, so flying a little bit slower at higher AOA, angle of attack, allows them to operate off those austere airstrips. That's just something the F-16 doesn't have the ability to do as well. Why? Because that F-16 has that huge hoovering intake in the front of it. I flew the F-16 on the Thunderbirds. You can pull 9 Gs at 400 knots and accelerate. That's how much thrust that F-16 has. But you've got that big hoovering vacuum underneath you, and it's sucking up everything. Pebbles, rocks, leaves, dirt. Everything is going to go into that engine because it's right there, right above the road. The Gripen is way more primed to operate off these austere strips, to get rearmed, get refueled, and get back in the fight. Extremely quick. That is a superpower of the Gripen, for sure. Scenario 2. The Kharkiv armor push. For the next engagement, it's summer of 2026. A Russian armored column is trucking towards Kharkiv. They're backed by a MiG-35 escort, and they are threatening a Ukrainian stronghold. This time, 3 Gripen are loaded for bear. They're carrying Brimstone missiles for the tanks and Meteors for the air. They take off from a rural road. They are not spotted by any Russian detection systems. They fly low. Using their AESA and their IRST, they detect the MiG-35s at over 50 nautical miles out. The MiGs are clueless. The Gripen flight lead makes the call. They fire multiple Meteor missiles. 2 MiG-35s are instantly deleted from the sky before they can even react. The other MiGs scatter, running for home. Now, the fun part. The Gripen dive to 5,000 feet. They could be using terrain-following radar, an adaptation these Gripen could actually have embedded in them. That keeps them hidden from any Russian radars. They pop up. The lead tanks of the Russian column are right in their sights. They unleash 12 Brimstone missiles. It's a slaughter. The missiles are smart. They talk to each other. They don't all hit the same tank. They spread out, wiping out the lead tanks, the command vehicles, the air defense. They scatter the entire column. Russian SAMs on the ground scramble, but the Gripen's electronic warfare suites jam their radars. The jets bug out. They are completely unscathed. They get away in time. And here's the craziest part. They're back at their highway base in under 40 minutes. They are getting reloaded, refueled, and they are ready for the next operation. They might even swap out crews, because at that point, the adrenaline's pumping. You just flew a combat mission. You just downed multiple MiG-35s and took out Russian tanks. It might be time to swap out the pilots and let you just chill for a second. The 2026 gamble. Will it work? So will the Ukraine Gripen gamble, that deal that was hypothetically inked in 2025, will that crush Russia's Air Force? Or will it at least tip the scales to give Ukraine the edge? The Gripen, with its advanced tech, its low-cost operations, and its seamless teamwork with the F-16. This could shift the air war in Ukraine's favor. Even though it's kind of a stalemate right now, every little edge counts. Those engagements we just talked about, they show that it's not just about raw power and numbers. It's about being tactical. It's about fighting smarter. And it's about teaming up into that hive mind that we discussed. So, what do you think? Can Ukraine's Gripen truly dominate Russia? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. And as always, if you would just watch this video right here. When you watch this video right here, it helps the channel grow a ton. And you've already done that. The channel is exploding because of viewers like you, and I greatly appreciate it. So I'll see you on this video right here.